So you got married, or you're considering getting married, and you have or had all these great ideas of what your marriage would look like. For many of us, we think that we're going to be married for an eternity and that we're going to be embalmed with our partners, not in Egypt, but we will be together, not in this life, but in the life to come, if you believe in life after this life. Or you got married knowing that it would be indefinite and you would never get a divorce, or that the word divorce would never enter into the space that you were created when you got with your partner. The truth of the matter is, for most of us, that marriage has become a prototype, hasn't it? Most of us, when we think about marriage, we think of getting married because society tells us, you know what, you have to have a partner. You know, two is better than one, and two can accomplish much more. And all that stuff is true and great. So we get together because it's the natural trajectory for us to follow, to get married, to have children, to build a house, to have the house with the white picket fence, to have savings, to send our children to college, to prepare for our retirement. It's like a prototype, right? It is what most people follow. It's not true that all people follow it, but it's what most of us who want to get married are thinking that we're doing when we subscribe to this prototype. Or you're just getting married because you love the person you're with and you cannot imagine your life without them. That's fine. And that's usually the case as well. But because we come into marriage with these preconceptions of what it is supposed to be and how it's supposed to go, we oftentimes neglect or are remiss in realizing that marriage is more than just an institution. It's more than just a coming together of two people. It's coming together of two people with different backgrounds, different upbringings, different ideas, different ways of thinking, different personalities, different everything. The person you're marrying, even though you have similarities, at some point or the other, when problems start in your relationship, you realize that this person has more differences than you initially thought or saw. And then you start focusing on the differences and not on how you're similar. Another thing that people think when they get married is, if I marry this person, I can have all the legal sex possible, and this is my person, and they don't have to say no to me. Or if they say no, is something that we can work around, which is true. But that's not also true. When you get married and you don't have any children, then you have children, it's harder for your partner to want to show up as he did before, because you get exhausted, you get tired. There's so often that many people come to me and they're like, you know what, we're having sex once a week, or we're not having sex at all, or every once a month. And that's becoming the norm when you're married, and when you're burnt out, and when you're tired, and when you're also frustrated or angry or resentful. There's so many other possibilities that come into this marriage situation that many people do not contemplate. But for those of you who are veterans, you're like, Ingrid, tell me something that I don't already know, or tell me something I haven't dealt with. I wrote this down because I wanted to get this right? So yeah, marriage has become a prototype. What marriage was meant to be was a coming together so that people could build upon or develop something greater, not something just greater in the union that the marriage created, but something greater in both individuals. Instead, it is about, you bending the other person's will to your will, or becoming, disconnected with the whole, non-realization of your fantasy. Everyone has a fantasy about what they're getting into. Everyone in their mind they have this picture that they've painted, whether they acknowledge it or not. You have a picture of how you see your marriage playing out. And then you get into this union, you're like, this is not what I signed up for. And some people get out right away, some people hang in there, and some people realize, hey, you know what, my reality was based on some fantasy that I had in my mind, and now I have to readjust to this reality, the reality of life, the reality of having stressors, the reality of having children, the reality of realizing that my partner is, I don't know everything about that person. That's the reality. I wrote here, instead is, yeah, I said that just now about becoming disconnected and not realizing your fantasy of what marriage is supposed to be. But here's the thing with marriage: if you are not building or growing emotionally and spiritually, then it will manifest in your relationship. So for me, the marriage, which is a union of coming together, is about growth. It's not only just about growth, it's about spiritual growth. And I think a lot of people leave out that element when they get married because all they're focused on is what they want and what they're not getting. But you're supposed to be growing spiritually with this other person, or at least this other person is supposed to be helping promote you and your spiritual growth. I know this is a concept that's foreign to some because most of us don't think we're spiritual, but we are spiritual beings housed in physical bodies. So to negate that you are spiritual at all would be detrimental to your very existence, but yet we do it anyhow. Yeah, but think about this. If you are not growing in a relationship, if you're not feeling better about who you are, if you're not getting to a point in your relationship where you're saying, you know what, we bring out the best in each other. This person helps me to become a better person. I have helped this person grow to a place where I can look and see my accomplishment in that process makes me feel better about who I am. That's what it should be. But instead, most of us get to a point in our marriage where there's disrespect, where there's resentment, where there's a total disregard and lack for the other individual's growth or the development of that growth, where we become emotionally and verbally abusive towards our partners, where we can't stand them, we can't stand the sight of them, we don't want to, we shut down, we stonewall, we don't want to communicate with this person anymore because we just are frustrated to the point where we don't know what to do. There's always something to do. You choosing not to do anything is worse than trying to do anything at all. I'm always amazed when people have been married 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, and they come to me and they say they've never done counseling. For me, at this point in my life, counseling is a preventative measure, and prevention is better than cure. Didn't we hear that growing up? If you can prevent what's happening, then of course you can solve the issue. So take a pill, the headache goes away. Why can't we take a pill with our marriages or our relationships? Why can't we address the issues on a continuous basis? I think that all relationships could benefit from counseling, not just because this is what I do, but I think any relationship and everyone could benefit from hearing a different perspective or helping somebody help them understand what they're going through. And it's no different with relationships. One or both people in the relationship, when it gets to this point where there's deterioration, they're both trying to build themselves up. They both want to be heard. You heard me say that in other videos before. But when you start to build yourself up at the expense of breaking somebody else down, that, my friend, is problematic. That is when the emotional or physical abuse or disrespect comes in. Because the moment you start thinking, you know what, I don't care about what this person is going through. I don't have time to decipher or decode their emotions or what's affecting them. And you start thinking about, I'm going to get mine and do me. That's when there's a breakdown, not just in communication, but that's when there's a breakdown in the relationship. How do you prevent that? How do you prevent trying to build yourself up at somebody else's expense? Well, a lot of times when people get disgusted or get frustrated in a relationship, what they do is tend to withdraw. And that withdrawal is them seeking self-protection. They're going to self-protective mode. I'm not going to let this person nag me to death. I'm not going to let this person continue to, tell me about myself or abuse me or speak to me disrespectfully. I'm just going to stop showing up and I'm going to do me. And when you choose to do you, how can the relationship grow from a place where only one person is showing up and the other person has refused to show up, or both people refuse to show up? It's very difficult. It's definitely very difficult when you see the disengagement and you ignore that and you keep on plodding along like it's going to self-correct. It does not self-correct. I'm here to tell you, you have to take action and you have to do something about your relationship before it becomes too detrimental to the point where the D word is mentioned or the D word becomes a reality. You are here in this relationship because there was something that you saw in each other that made you foster and develop that relationship to the point where you could see a future. Just because you're in a place where the future is obscured by your emotions does not mean that that future is unattainable. It can still be attained, but you have to take pause and understand the cause and the reason why you're here. Don't give up. Don't give in. You have to start. from a place where you take a step back and say, you know what? We need help. Let's reach out for help. And more importantly, is this something that I see myself continuing in? And do I want this relationship? If the answer to that question is yes, you want this relationship, then you owe it to yourself to tell your partner that you guys need an intervention. You need help to get back on track. I grew up in a household where I understand somebody else trying to break me down so they can build themselves up. I understand having to develop the self-esteem and the intestinal fortitude to stay true to who I was, because otherwise I would have been totally broken. It wasn't that I wasn't broken. I would have become totally broken. Do not stay in a relationship where you're being emotionally abused or disrespected on a long-term basis. It shouldn't even be short-term. But if you continue going on that vein, eventually you would have destroyed the fabric of the relationship, because there's no coming back. Once words leave your mouth, it's hard to retract them. Words are the only things that you cannot take back. You can spend a lifetime trying to correct what came out, but you cannot retrace or retract those words that you have shared with the person that is hurting you or the person that has hurt you. There's so many things that marriage is not, and there's so many things that it could be. You have to determine, not just from here, but the point that where you are right now, what do you want moving forward? I'm a firm believer in redefining things. I'm a firm believer in saying, you know what? It's not how you start, it's how you finish. It's true. My Monday may have started a certain way, but it's not how it started. It's how my Monday will finish that determines the rest of the course of the week. That's how I look at it. Take the same approach. It's not how you started. It's not the bumps in the road. If you've forgiven the person, if you want to work on this, stop, reassess, and decide, where do I want to go from here? What are my expectations for this relationship? And not just for the relationship. If you see yourself growing with this person, if you see this person adding and pouring into you and vice versa, then there's an opportunity for growth. Then there's an opportunity for development. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for allowing me to share with you. I hope that, as always, you get something from what I'm saying. As I always say, disclaimer, nothing I say is new. There's nothing new under the sun, but maybe I said it a different way and had a different approach that would make you stop and think about what you're doing right now in your relationship. There's no right way and wrong way, but there is a healthy way to approach your marriage. And that's all I'm proposing, is that you use the tools that I'm giving you and all the tools that are out here on the internet and the books and stuff to take a healthier approach to your marriage or your relationship. Starting right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. All you have is right now. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for visiting the YouTube channel. I look forward to your comments, to your likes, and I also thank you for your support and for telling others about what I'm doing here. As always, have an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.